Welcome to episode 4 of the Black Guys Like Baseball 2 podcast. I am your humble and gracious host, as Joe Button would say, Terrence, and my co host.
Brian Evans.
And this is a special coronavirus episode.
Shutting everything down.
Right, sponsored by coronavirus. As most of you know, there isn't much going on in the world of sports right now. Everything's been shut down. Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, anything you can name has been, suspended, postponed, or straight out canceled. So we're going to do something a little bit different with the show this week. We're going to go into a little bit of a deep dive into one particular story. Just because, like I said, it's not a lot going on, and we need to give you guys something to go on for the rest of the week. So again, this is the podcast, the safe space for a black baseball fan. So Brian, how you doing this week?
Yeah, the only thing I'm bummed out about is now we don't see. Now we pretty much lost count on how many Astros we're going to get beamed during the spring training. So that is very, very sad.
Oh, I don't think pitchers forgot. Like this is just delayed, like one of those delayed ass whippers that from your parents back in the day.
Right,
Like
right.
once we get home,
Yeah,
kind of
all they
thing.
did was sit the belt on the bed, so you see it. That belt ain't going
Right.
nowhere though. That's all they did. They just sit the belt on the bed, so you know it's there.
But the whole world is in hysteria right now. We're not going to do a ton of corona coverage because I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about coronavirus right now. So we're going to do things a little bit different. So Brian, any thoughts? We'll touch on it briefly. Any thoughts on the world of sports since this whole virus outbreak?
Yeah, nah, there ain't too much going on. Just
But yeah, like I said, we're not going to corona you to death, no pun intended. But we're gonna get into this week's episode, and we're gonna kick it off like we always do with the legend Bernie Mac.
I said, take. I said, take. Me out to the ball game. Take. I said, take. Me out with the crowd. Now buy me some peanuts. Buy me some peanuts. Buy me.
Taking us out to the ball game. As I mentioned before, we're going to do a little bit of more of a deep dive into a story, not what we typically do, but like we said, not much going on around any of the sports world. But this happened over the last week, so we thought it would be a great opportunity to go into this story about Barry Bonds and some of the comments that he's made. So Barry Bonds was quoted in an article that appeared on the Atlantic website, written by Andrew Bagarley, and I apologize if I pronounce your name wrong, in regards to his standing with Major League Baseball, and saying basically, and I quote, "I feel like a ghost in a big empty house, just rattling around in regards to his relationship with Major League Baseball." And he feels his Hall of Fame quest is, quote, "a death sentence. That's what they've given me," end quote. Since then, Bonds has released a statement that reads in part, "Unfortunately, I was misquoted. I did not say Major League Baseball has given me a death sentence. I did not reference the league in any way, nor did I infer that the MLB was keeping me out of the Hall." This is to me, this is a piece of a much bigger narrative that Barry Bonds has been unofficially, kind of like exiled from the game of baseball, at least on the major league level. So, Brian, your thoughts on Barry's quotes, his takes, this article, and his stance in Major League Baseball right now.
I mean, I totally feel like they kind of like blackballed him, like unofficially. As soon as he broke the record for Hank Aaron's record. He was saying that the record, is not tainted. He said this is official record. He doesn't want to asterisk by it. And then as soon as the press conference is over, they put an asterisk by everything and this and that.
Right.
Um, it's like I said in an earlier podcast. Like I don't know if he took any kind of performance enhancers or whatnot, but I do know his hand-eye coordination was off the charts, and that's
Right.
something that steroids or whatever cannot help you with. So, at the end of the day, he was probably the most feared hitter. You would rather just walk him with the bases loaded than let him get a home run and hit a grand slam off you. So, whether he did or didn't use anything, you still got to tip your hat to this man. Uh, I mean, I'm sure we'll go over his stats later, but I sure enough got him written down, and he's surely Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah, and the thing is, prior, and a lot of people talk about this, prior to even coming to the Giants, he had a Hall of Fame resume just with the Pirates alone. And you spoke to his stats, and I just pulled up some of his numbers. And this is all prior to 1998 when he went from, well, this is 1998 is the year before the kind of steroid explosion. So he wasn't suspected of steroids, anything of nature at this point. And at that point, his career numbers, he had a 290 batting average, 411 home runs, and 3 MVPs already. Now, there are players with far not so great stats in the Hall of Fame, and this is only a part of that man's career. So, this piece about keeping him out of the Hall of Fame is clearly, a personal vendetta, whether it's the steroid thing or him not being so buddy buddy with the media and things like that. But there's no way that this man should be held out of the Hall of Fame. And also speaking to him getting back in Major League Baseball, I did read, and I didn't even know this actually, that he was a hitting instructor for the Marlins for a year, and he was actually dismissed from that position actually back in 2016.
I do remember him having that position. I did not know he was dismissed. It kind of, to me, that one, that was kind of swept under the rug. At least to me, I didn't know that he was dismissed.
Yeah, he got fired after the 2016 season. He was only there 1 year,
Wow.
which is interesting to me. I mean, if any team needs help with hitting, you know what I mean? It's the Marlins. Uh, so I mean, how much of this do you think is actually the steroid thing versus it being him personality wise? Him versus the media most of his career.
Well, it was definitely no secret that he did not get along with the media. So I think it's more of that because from the people who clearly gained from steroids, like a Mark McGuire, a Sammy Sosa. I mean, Sammy Sosa got caught with a cork bat, and we still love Sammy to this day. So,
And bleached his skin.
yeah, and bleach his skin. He's totally somebody else now. Um, it's just, yeah, I think it's that he did not play nice with the media, and so the media, since they do have their votes, are just paying him back now.
Right. It definitely feels like there's something personal about this whole situation with Barry Bonds, and of course it's impossible to prove that kind of thing. But like I said before, there are players who have far worse stats than Barry Bonds did at the halfway point of his career that are in the Hall, but he's being held out for some reason. And the other thing that, and this is just my personal opinion, my deep dive analysis. Of course, his father played in the major leagues, and his godfather Willie Mays, who of course is baseball legend,
Right.
beyond Hall of Fame. He's just like one of those gold standard kind of guys.
Hmm.
Um, they experienced like a ton of racism and bias throughout their playing careers. Because I mean, you think back in those days, black people in general weren't treated so great, and baseball was still very much then a white man's sport. So they didn't get the greatest treatment, and I think that Barry actually carried some of that with him throughout his career, what Willie Mays and his father Bobby Bonds actually experienced in regards to the racism and the way that they were treated media. And I think he kind of wore that chip on his shoulder as well as a player. And I think that's what kind of is the crust of his relationship with the media. Um, and I don't think that gets spoken enough about, that he actually grew up in baseball under those circumstances. So do you think that any of that contributes to how he handled or approached his career at all?
Yeah, I think all that plays a part because it definitely shapes who you are earlier on in in your career, as far as how you view the media and how the media portrays you as like they're either pretty much going to write you as a villain or the hero, and they pretty much wrote him up as a villain. He
Right.
was definitely one of the on the route Mount Rushmore of the steroid era. They try to link him to. So yeah, I think it's just the way the media portrayed him, and he was willing to be the villain, basically. So
Yeah, and history's unkind to the villain. I mean, we need those villainous kind of characters in all the sports.
yeah,
It's kind of like one of those drivers. So I mean, you know, I think Barnes. There's no denying that he belongs in the Hall of Fame, but this feeling that the game of baseball kind of turned their back on him is kind of crazy to me, that he's done so much for the game.
he's an asset to the game. I mean, who better to teach you how to hit than Barry Bonds?
Right.
If he's like, "Hey, I'll do it for free. I don't even want the money," like, and you're like, "Nah, we're good." Like, what are we doing?
Right. And a lot of this came up because he, did this interview. He was actually in Giants camp as a guest instructor. So I guess the Giants are trying to, work him into a position or keep him around the team, which, they should have been done, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, next to Willie Mays, he's by far the most famous San Francisco Giant, like by a mile, not even like close.
right.
So maybe they're trying to work him back in, but yeah, I mean, in my opinion, there's definitely a place left for Barry Bonds in baseball.
Yeah, there should be. There definitely should be.
It's funny, we were talking about ESPN before we went on air, and how they have like no content to speak of, or nothing really to do. But I did see a clip of the baseball analyst Tim Kirchin, who actually I've seen him in person. Dude is like 5'1", if that tall.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like small. But anyway, I digress. Um, he was talking about different players from different eras getting opportunities to coach or be a part of teams post retirement. And he was saying that the game has changed so much and is leaning so heavily towards like analytics and stuff like that,
Hmm.
that there isn't really a place for guys like Barry Bonds or Mark McGuire, guys like that, to come in and be hitting coaches, because the focus is more on analytics than actual like technique and stuff like that, which I
Right.
thought was really weird and kind of like explains a lot in regards to the approach of teams and players and things like that.
I'm sure we'll get into it later, but I mean, Barry Bonds has 8 Gold Gloves. I mean, he was more than just a hitter. You know what I mean?
Good point. That's a good point. I didn't even
I,
put that down, but that's a great point.
I could see if he was just a slugger, not really a defensive player or anything like that, like, or if he was just a DH, you know what I mean? Like, oh, he can just hit. That's all he's good for. But I mean, he has 8 Gold Gloves, 7-time NL MVP awards. He played 22 seasons. I mean, he's very well seasoned. He can tell you a lot about the game.
Right.
Analytics cannot tell you that. They can't show you that. Um, while I'm not going to crap on analytics, I mean, I'm sure it does play a part. At the end of the day, you need like teaching. You need somebody to show you. You need to learn from somebody. Analytics can only do so much. So uh, I still stick with the old model and have somebody
Mhm.
show you and learn from them and uh, and then apply the analytics on top of that. But to totally oust like the coaches, um, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great point. I wasn't in so much of baseball statistics is about offense. I wasn't even thinking about defense, so that's a great point bringing up the Gold Gloves. That he was a great defender as well, which is lacking in baseball right now.
Right.
In my opinion, like defense in baseball is just basically the shift.
Right. Right. That's it. And now they got analytics to combat that. So I mean,
I mean, you can't really. I mean, there aren't too many like great defensive, like flat out defensive studs in regards to baseball right
hmm
now. I mean, you don't have guys like the Barry Bonds, the Andrew Jones, the Torrey Hunters. You don't really have those guys anymore.
Right, right. Somebody that can gun you from center field all the way to home plate. I mean, those things are lacking nowadays. That was some of the better plays. I mean, Bo Jackson when he ran across the wall, like that stuff is missing. Now it's either strikeouts or home runs.
Right. Yeah. So much of the focus of the game is on offense that, yeah, you're right. I mean, having a guy like Barry Bonds around the team, even to give defensive tips, would be, a huge help to a lot of these young players. Because now, if it's like if you don't hit 30 home runs and hitting like at least 260, like you're replaced in like 2 years.
Right.
Because nobody really cares as much about the defense. So again, yeah, there's something else that Barry can bring, to a young team. And the other thing is, and we talked about this before with the Derek Jeter voting situation. Is this another watershed moment where we have to question how we vote players into the Hall of Fame or how players get into the Hall of Fame?
hmm
Because he's only got 2 years left on the ballot, and if there aren't some major mind shifts within the next 2 years, he might not ever get in.
Right. Right. And that would be so unfortunate.
It's unfortunate he's not a first ballot, but clearly that's water under the bridge. But the fact that one of the game's greatest players of all time might not even get in is, nuts to me.
His numbers speak volume, and like I said, for him not to get in, that would be a crime. Whether you like him or not, like his numbers definitely say he belongs, and for him to pretty much hold down his decade, of being that face, I don't know. Like you can't erase what he did for the game.
Right.
We're gonna just act like he not, he didn't exist. So I don't know, man. That's baseball. That's their, I guess, their ugly trait of baseball, that's being so traditionalist.
Yeah, these like for the sanctity of the game guys are like killing the game right now.
Right.
Like not killing the game in a good way, but killing the game in the other way. Because I mean, and I read something that said the reason that more players don't have a vote is because players hold biases and things of that nature. But these sports writers, I feel like hold biases and hold grudges just as much as former players do.
Absolutely.
So again, I think that the Hall of Fame voting needs to be re-examined. Because of situations like Barry Bonds not having to wait so many years and still might not get in. Derek Jeter not being unanimous. Ken Griffey Jr. not being unanimous, and I don't know. Hall of Fame is become like a really political type of thing,
hmm
which I don't think is a place for in baseball, in my opinion. And I think this Barry Bonds thing is kind of almost a poster child for that.
Right. Agreed.
So I think there needs to be some change in that. So when it comes to Barry Bonds, like, what do you think he is on that kind of the Mount Rushmore of baseball in regards to all time great players?
I just feel like he has to be on there. And I guess it starts with who we consider to already be up there, but just for all these accomplished, like I said, his numbers, and for the length that he played. I mean, 22 seasons is a long time. It's a lot of wear
Yeah.
and tear. That's a lot of games played.
You said it, 22 years, and I was looking at his stats. Even in his final season, I mean, he still hit 28 home runs, had 66 RBIs, batted 276, and he was injured a great deal of that season, which led to his retirement pretty much ultimately. So I
Right.
mean, to have somebody who you know was so great for so long and not be in, I think is a travesty to me. And again, the feeling that Major League Baseball is kind of turned their back on this dude is insane to me. I just think that with everything that's going on in baseball right now, the Astros cheating scandal, um, the Red Sox cheating scandal, which nobody's even talking about because of the Astros.
Right.
They kind of got a get out of jail free card thanks to the Astros. I mean, it would be some goodwill to put guys like Barry Bonds in. Same thing with Pete Rose.
Hmm.
And I'm sure there's a couple other guys that are being held out for issues off the field that shouldn't be you know standing outside the doors of the Hall of Fame. They should be inside. So I
Right.
think baseball could really use like some goodwill right now by putting guys like that in. But it doesn't appear that's happening, or at least it's going to happen, easily.
Yeah. Yeah, we need like a youth movement, some kind of
Yeah,
push,
man.
to push these guys through. I truly believe that's what is needed. I think it's a lot of old sports writers, like you said, that either have personal vendettas, like I really needed that interview and he wouldn't give it to me, things like that, or he just wasn't nice to me, whatever the reason it may be. But yeah, baseball should definitely consider another way of voting for sure, because yeah, too many people are starting to slip through the cracks, at least that we know of.
The crazy part of it, like people around baseball and in baseball have or pretend to have a huge issue with the whole quote unquote steroid era in Major League Baseball, but they're not exactly giving the money back that they made.
Oh yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because prior to starting with Sosa and McGuire, like baseball, the ratings were down, attendance was in the toilet. But when this whole quote unquote steroid era began, like there was an explosion of interest in baseball. They set attendance records, they set
Hmm.
ratings records on TV. A lot of people made a lot of money, like
Absolutely.
a lot of money. Like even bad teams. Like I remember when the Giants came here for interleague play, every Orioles game was sold out that weekend, and the Orioles hadn't had a sellout in like I don't even know prior to that. But the Giants actually played. I think they actually played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday series against the
Hmm.
Giants, and every game was like filled to the Raptors. It was the only time I'd ever seen, and I actually used to work at Oriole Park. It was the only time I'd actually seen people in their seats for batting practice is when the Giants came and Barry Bonds was on the team. Because he was out there like killing balls and batting practice, and nobody wanted to miss it.
Right.
So, I mean, these guys did a lot for the game in that regard. And to kind of just cast them aside as if, oh, they're cheaters, this, that, and the third, when they really saved baseball, I think is a travesty.
Yeah, it's like you said. You know, MLB made a lot of money during that era. I mean, they can wag their fingers at you like, no, 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 that's bad. But they, like you said, they profited from it. Um, Everybody was smacking home runs. I mean, like I said, it put butts in seats. People were showing up to games because we even got the phrase "chicks dig the long ball" during the steroid era because everybody was
Right.
smacking home runs. So I think, in my opinion, it'd be foolish to think that MLB didn't know about the steroid era before it officially came out as a steroid era. I'm sure they knew or got some hints. I'm sure some people probably tested positive, and it probably was like, you know what, you're doing too good right now for us. Like, we're going to go ahead and sweep this under the rug, or whatever the case may be. But best believe that they knew about it before it was released to the public that this was going on. Because when that money starts flowing in, you get kind of quiet, and,
Right.
until it gets painfully obvious. Then you're like, oh, okay, well, hey, we just found out that some people had tested positive, and we're going to suspend them, and shame on them. But prior to that, they were just raking in all the money.
Yeah, all of the money. Like that era is the reason that Mike Trout can get $430 million now. Like
Hmm.
the reason why you can get $300 million contracts is because of that era, but people don't really want to give that credit to those guys. And again, Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa, they kind of kicked it off, and they weren't Hall of Fame caliber players prior to. the whole
Right.
steroid era. But Barry Bonds, we went over the numbers. Yeah, he definitely was. Was it like Sosa was almost basically a scrub before all of that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he played for the right team. The Cubs. You get good exposure playing with the Cubs. Um, he had the personality. Personality may have been there prior to all that, but he became lovable, and everybody fell in love with him, and his character, and then the little two kisses and the peace sign, all that stuff.
Right.
We all liked it. It was great. It was marketable, and then he had somebody to go up against Mark McGuire, and it's like who can end up like who's going to be the first person to hit 60 home runs this year? Okay, and who's going to have the most by the end of the season? So it was just great marketing. Um, but again, like you can't tell me that one year, like the first year that they started popping 60 home runs out of the season, nobody was looking sideways at him like, wow, well, he did change his workout regimen during the off season. It's like, nah, it's more than that. What I'm saying? His head got bigger. you
Right.
know, he lost his neck
And
over the off season. Like his traps were way, way, way too big.
right, and the other thing, and with McGuire, there were rumors with him going back to his days, in Oakland, because your man's Jose Canseco was kind of like the
Yeah,
I
he
don't know
was
the
a
Tony
real,
Montana of baseballs
yeah,
and steroids, like, and they were like they were boys back in the day, so it's not far fetched to assume that Mark McGuire was doing a little something something for like a long time.
right,
And again, they still weren't putting up Hall of Fame numbers like Barry was, but Barry seems to be kind of like the scapegoat, the poster child for that whole era, which is a little unfair. Again, Barry Bonds, he says he feels like a ghost. He feels like he's kind of been ostracized a little bit by the Hall of Fame committee. He wanted to clarify in a statement that I read earlier that he didn't feel like the league itself was, keeping him out of the Hall of Fame. Is more so the writers and the Hall of Fame committee. So, to my man Barry Bonds, keep your head up. I'm sure you'll get in. They'll probably, you know, what I call Negro League you and put you in at the last possible moment that they can, just
yeah.
to kind of prove a point. But hopefully Barry will get in. He deserves to be there. Any thoughts on when or if or how it'll shake out? When he actually does get in.
I have no idea on when. Hopefully, they don't wait till actually he passes away like they do everybody else. Like I said, I feel like that's what they're going to do with Pete Rose. Like as soon as he passes away, they don't want him to have the pleasure of knowing that he got in. So they'll wait till he passes, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we should go ahead and put him in." Hopefully, they don't do that. Hopefully, they have a change of heart. I really do hope that there is a bigger movement. I mean, maybe we could start a hashtag or something like that. To get Barry in. These last
Right.
2 years.
They
But
work
yeah,
for the
something
Oscars, so
right, right.
the
So
Oscars so white. Put Barry in or something.
yeah, yeah, put Barry in. So we might have to get that started. But yeah, hopefully they don't wait till he dies. Hopefully he can smell his roses while he's still alive and enjoy it. I mean, I think he will give a great Hall of Fame speech with all he's been through.
Man, I can't imagine what his Hall of Fame speech would be. Would he like be, gracious and all that, or would he take that opportunity to like
Michael Jordan it.
Mike? Right. Like I was trying to find a good way to put that, but give a Michael Jordan esque Hall of Fame speech.
But yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting. I think he may pop fly a little bit, and then he may reel it in and end it on a good note. But it will definitely be interesting. I think it'll be good either way.
Yeah. So again, I mean, shouts out to Barry. We'll be rooting for you and watching how your Hall of Fame quest continues. Hopefully, you'll get in while you can still appreciate it and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So anything else we got? Anything else this week in baseball that needs to be discussed or can be discussed without
I don't.
the C word?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's about it, really. I know as far as my Reds go, I can just give you a little update on that. Because you were
Okay.
talking about analytics. I can't remember the guy's name, but they brought in some analytics guy, and apparently this is like the first year that they brought analytics in with the Reds. So I do
This
know
is
that
the
that was
first year.
happening. To my knowledge, yes. Like that's what they were saying, like on our local news, that this was like, I guess, the first time that they brought analytics in, and everything from hitting to pitching, things like that. Everything's being
Dude,
like
they're like 10
recorded.
years behind everybody else.
Hey, I don't know, but to my knowledge, I honestly don't remember hearing anything about analytics with the Reds prior
Wow.
to what I saw on the news. So yeah. But I guess, heck, I mean, after we did our little fire sale like 4 years ago, I guess there was like, hey, look, ain't no need to get analytics just yet because we don't even have a good squad to even you know put forth the money to get analytics. So, but I'm like I said, I'm just happy they're trying something different. I think we should have a decent season this year. I don't know if we're in contention for a pennant or not, but I definitely with the pieces that we added this year, I think we are heading in the right direction. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's crazy. They just got on the analytics train because I think that's been around in baseball for a minute now.
Yeah,
Most teams have
yeah.
jumped on that plane, what, 10 or 15 years ago with all the analytics and baseball stuff like that.
hmm
So man, that's wild if they're really just getting on that.
Yeah, like I said, I don't remember hearing anything about it prior, so maybe better
Yeah,
late than
maybe.
never, I guess.
Maybe they turn over a new leaf, man. They'll surprise you this year maybe with their
Yeah,
new approach.
I hope so.
Um, but yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have a lot to discuss this week. So yeah,
Um,
yeah. So yeah. I mean, I guess that might be it for this week. Hopefully, we'll have more to discuss in our next episode. Hopefully, things will return to normal. We'll get some kind of you know baseball. I don't know if it'll be open today. I don't know if they'll try to do a little bit of more spring training before we actually get some games that count. I mean, everything, the whole world is up in the air at this point, man. They even, canceling WrestleMania from what I hear. So, everything is going down in flames
yeah,
at,
man.
at this point. So I guess that's all we got. Unless you want to add anything else this week.
Hey, Christian Yelich, our offer still stands. You want to donate to the
Right.
podcast? You know what I'm saying? Is your car washed? Walk the dogs for you. Hit us up.
Man, he signed his contract right on time. Like
Yeah, he did. He is a real winner right now. He got his money. He's chilling.
he signed his contract right on time.
He's
Like,
probably on the beach somewhere right now.
man, shout out to Christian Yelich, man. All right, well, we're going to wrap up this week, this abbreviated version of the Black Guys Like Baseball 2 podcast. Again, hopefully, we'll have more to discuss next week. Hopefully, we'll have something to discuss next week because I don't know, this Barry Bonds situation kind of bailed us out this week,
Yeah.
to be honest. So, thanks for listening. Again, please subscribe, like, comment. We're up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Will be up on Google Play by the time you actually hear this. So feel free to subscribe there as well. Questions, comments, any feedback you want to give us, you can always shoot us an email at blackguysbaseball@gmail.com. Brian, where can they check you out on social media, follow you on social media if they are so inclined to do so?
I am on Instagram, Enhance the Selector. I am on there. You can hit me up. Uh, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm pretty much just on Instagram. Facebook is kind of dead for me.
Yeah, Facebook is the only reason I still use Facebook, like real talk, is like the people I'm connected to on Facebook are people that I actually know, like in real life.
Like real people. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the only reason I still use Facebook because it's like legit family and friends on Facebook. Like my Instagram and Twitter, like bad random people that I just came across at some point and just followed them. So
Yeah.
I feel you on that. But with that said, my Instagram is Terrence_media on Instagram. Feel free to hit me up, follow, all that good stuff. So we're going to sign off for this week. Hopefully be back next week with some real topics to discuss. And always, thanks for listening. Peace out.
Peace.